Welcome to multiplication using arrays. We're going to introduce a new tool that will help us kind of organize our multiplication facts. We've talked about drawing circles and filling pieces in those circles, but this is another way that looks a little bit more organized and a little bit more neat, and it's a little bit more concise. So as we get going, you're going to use this one, and these are things that we see in our everyday life naturally. So the first thing I want to look at is when we have things around our house or things around our world that are organized into multiplication facts. For example, I have found my egg carton in my refrigerator. And if you look at it, I have 3 rows of 6. So if you look at this, I have 1 row of 6. I have 2 rows of 6. And then this would be my 3rd row of 6. So think about that. What would my multiplication fact be? If you said 3 times 6, you're correct. Now what does 3 times 6 equal? Well, it should be 3 groups of 6, right? So if I have 6 plus 6 plus 6, that would be equal to 18. So now, when we think of a multiplication problem, instead of saying groups of, when we used to say, 3 times 6 equals 18, we read that as 3 groups of 6, which then we did, our 3 circles with 6 in each. Well, now, we're going to change that thinking. It's going to switch to 3 rows of 6. Okay? So instead of 3 groups of, we're doing 3 rows. And remember, rows move this way. Okay? When I have something that goes up and down or vertically, we call that a column. Okay? So my column, my number of columns is going to be this number. My number of rows is this one. Okay? So I have my 3 rows of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in this case, order really, really matters. Remember when we were doing our groups of, it was important to remember how many groups of something we had. Again, we have to really pay attention to the order of my numbers. So then as I was looking around my house, I was really paying attention to where I saw other arrays. And I noticed that our spice rack was an array. I want you to write down on your paper, what multiplication problem do you see with my spice rack? So take a few seconds to figure that out. All right, if I'm looking at the way that we look at this correctly, where it's how many rows do I have, should be my first number. So I'm questioning how many rows. I see one row, I see 2, I see 3, I see 4, I see 5. So my first number should be 5. Then I see how many columns. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4. So my second number should be 4. And what does 5 times 4 equal? Remember rocking around the clock? It's 5, 10, 15, 20. So I have 20 spices in my spice rack. All right, I want you to try to draw one on your paper. So somewhere in your space, if it's on the back of your WSQ, that's fine. I want you to solve the problem 6 times 4. And I want you to show me what would that array look like. So I need you to draw an array. All right, so you should have started with 6 rows. So what I always do is I take this number and I start a column of that number. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I take that number down. And then I go over by this many. So I'm going to go over 4. And you include your first number. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I have 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that. And it's important that you draw them neat. Notice how I could take another color and I could work my way down this line and it would be pretty straight. Okay? If you start getting all crazy, it's really hard to read it. So my 6 times 4 is 6 rows of 4, which is 24. Okay, we're going to do one last example. I'm going to draw the array, and I want you to write what that quantity represents. Okay, so you need to write the multiplication problem that I represent with my array. All right, you should have noticed that I had 7 rows of 3. And that would equal 21. Alright, hopefully this video has introduced you to manipulating those arrays and being able to transform, if you're given an image of an array, you can tell me what multiplication fact is there, and if you're given a multiplication fact, you can draw out that array and represent it. We use arrays to organize a lot easier. It's more simple to look at it, and when we move into area later, we'll bring back arrays because arrays really help us with our area. All right, as you're waiting until Monday, my hope is that you start to notice those arrays that are around your home or around your bedrooms, maybe even on the school bus on the way to school. I want you to take note of those and maybe come with a list of 2 or 3 that you noticed of your own, and we'll share those when we see each other on Monday. Have a great rest of your weekend, friends.